Well, earlier today, in a rare sermon in Tehran, Iran's supreme leader warned of further attacks against Israel while expressing solidarity with the regime's proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah. Israeli forces continue to strike in Lebanon, including targeted attacks to eliminate the presumed new leader of Hezbollah. Join me now to discuss the latest from Israel, Daniel Cohen. He is news director for Real Life Network. Daniel.
Good to be with you, Tony. How you doing?
Welcome back.
This is exciting. I know that behind the cameras that people can't see, but there's an energy in the room, and there's so many people here that love Israel, and it's warming my heart just being a part of it.
Well, we had a panel discussion last night on Israel. Of course, we've been waiting to see developments, and developments are happening by the hour. As I mentioned, the supreme leader there in Tehran suggesting that there may be more to come.
He said that Israel won't last long. And I hate to be I'm happy to be the one to tell him. I've read this book, and I know the last chapter, and I know the last book in the Bible, and I know how the story ends for Israel, so he's wrong, right? But what moves Israel has made in the last 2 weeks, in the last 24 to 48 hours, it sounds like there's a job opening for the commander of Hezbollah.
I'm not sure too many people want to stand in line for that, though.
They took out Hassan Nasrallah. And then the next person in command, Israel, has already taken out that person as well. And so Israel is making strong moves. How will they respond? What will they do? How will they respond to the Iranian attack? Danny Danon, the Israeli ambassador, said it will be painful. Will it be directly on the oil fields? President Biden, in that clip that you played up the top of the show, is discouraged, said, no, don't hit the oil fields. That's political, right? Because he doesn't want gas prices going up right before an election. Nothing to tamper with oil. I went to Saudi Arabia in 2022, right before the midterm elections, when President Biden went hand in hand to meet with the Saudi Crown Prince. And you remember, he met with the largest OPEC nation, oil producers, saying, the gas prices were through the roof. If you go back 2 years, gas prices were averaging around, $5-something a gallon. So again, I think it just shows that political considerations are affecting what President Biden says about Israel and about the friendship, and it shouldn't be political. I wish he would just say, Israel, we support you, what do you need from us, and get out of the way.
Today, Israeli Defense Minister Gallant said that Israel has more surprises in store. What does he mean by that?
That's a great question. And I think strategically, after Iran launched a direct attack on Israel, this wasn't a proxy, this wasn't Hamas, this wasn't the Houthis, and this wasn't Hezbollah. And so, to me, that says all options should be on the table for Israel. And whether Israel wants to take out the oil, whether it wants to take out ports in Tehran, which will cripple the economy. I just spoke with General Boykin in that chair about an hour ago, and he said, Israel doesn't have to take out Iranian oil. Just destroying the ports will cripple the economy. But really, all options are on the table, and the Israelis, as we've seen in the last few weeks, are very creative and can do pretty much whatever they want, because we've seen they've carried out an attack inside Tehran near the presidential palace.
Right. And the air defense system that Iran has is very limited. It's certainly not what Israel has. And when you look at the 190 ballistic missiles that Iran fired on Israel without effect, I mean, a historic, unprecedented attack with no effect, I would have to think that this is bolstering Israel's sense of confidence and even strengthening the country in their defense.
It seems like Iran is exposed, isn't it? There was one fatality on that massive strike on Tuesday of 181 missiles, and it happened to be an Arab man who was walking outside of Jericho. It looked like he was on a phone, if you've seen the video, and a piece of shrapnel falls right on him. But the fact, it's amazing and biblical, the fact that God protected Israel, that there was not one fatality, and it was frightening. It was frightening, but we'll have to see, Tony. We'll have to see. But the response that Israel can formulate in this moment, I don't know. I'm watching, because you and I are both saying, well, what's Israel going to do? Everyone's been asking, what is Israel going to do? But Iran's exposed because Israel's taken out Hamas. They've decimated Hamas. They've hurt Hezbollah. They've been attacking the Houthis in Yemen. And the 100 to 150,000 missiles that have been pointed directly at Tel Aviv, which is right outside where I live, has been sort of like, so to speak, a loaded gun pointed at Israel, which has kept Israel from really doing carrying out any sort of extensive attack on Iran. So now Iran is exposed, and what will Israel do?
There is no urgency for them to act, for Israel to respond. In the meantime, they're eliminating the threat from their north as they're continuing to press their case against Hezbollah in Lebanon. And as they take out those rockets and those rocket launchers, they're able to focus more on Iran and that threat that may come from there.
And if you think about it, Tony, what has Israel said? They have been warning for months. They've been warning Hezbollah to retreat. There's a river called the Litani River, and they've been telling Hezbollah to retreat. They've been firing rockets since October 8th. Here we are, we're within a week. We're just a couple of days away from the October 7th massacre. And there are 70 to 80,000 people who live in northern Israel who have been unable to go home. Hezbollah has been effectively controlling the northern part of Israel, firing all those rockets. There are people that the congregation that I attend in Tel Aviv that live right on the Lebanese border near Akko, near some of those northern cities, Nahariya, and they want to go home. And Israel's been saying, enough is enough. How long? I heard Prime Minister Netanyahu saying, if this was San Diego, if this was somewhere El Paso, Texas, the United States wouldn't tolerate a foreign entity controlling United States borders and controlling United States territory. Same goes for Israel.
Daniel, I want to switch gears a little bit here. You just arrived a day or so ago here into the United States from Israel. In fact, you were in flight when the attack was launched by Iran. We'll talk a little bit about the Pray Vote Stand Summit here. What's the sense as you interact with what we call SageCon, spiritually active, governance-engaged conservatives?
I love being surrounded by the people here who understand, who get it, who get Israel, and who are able to make the connection. I talk to a lot of pastors, and I've been speaking with some here, and it's just, the Lord has put it strong on my heart to share that churches that are growing, churches that are thriving in the United States right now, and I hope you hear this, are churches and pastors and pastoral teams who are making the connection between Israel right now. I've spoken to pastors who really, they don't teach on Israel. They don't really get the connection points. Some have not ever been there. Some that haven't been to Israel in decades. And some that I've personally spoken to, and they say, hey, explain this to me. What about this relationship? Well, what about that? And so for me, my heart is it's exploding to hear there's so much love for Israel, but I tell people it's important, it's fundamental. How much of the Bible has got to talk about this it's his land. These are his people, right? It's the only covenant nation. The United States is not a covenant nation. Israel is. Right. It's important to know the connection points because what's going on in the news right now, it's all prophetic. It all ties together. So we have to know what's in the book, right?
When you look at, you say it's prophetic, when you look at that timeline, the biblical timeline, how significant is this moment?
Well, it's a historic moment just in terms of what Israel's been able to execute. I'm not an eschatologist, I'm not a pastor, but what we do is pastoral. We have to know what's in the Word. And 1948, Israel was reconstituted and regathered, and it's like a stopwatch started, a clicking clock started in that moment because that is the generation that won't pass away before Jesus, before Yeshua returns. So we don't know the hour, we don't know the day, right? But we're supposed to be expecting, we're supposed to be waiting, and we're just supposed to be about our Father's business. And Pray, Vote, Stand, and what you are doing here, Tony, and what you've been able to do, and mobilizing. The people here are passionate. And the majority of the people that are on fire for the Lord, I think those 10 to even 20%, those are the people that are really accomplishing 70, 80% for the kingdom. And it's so great how it starts here and how it feathers out to the grassroots.
And actually, we know that from the studies that we've done on the SageCons that they are influencers. They influence others in their conversations intentionally in the material that they hand out.
It's so important what you're doing, Tony. God bless you for us. Yeah.
Daniel Cohen, I want to ask you this question. We've got about a minute and a half left. We talked about the significance of this moment, but you said something about the church standing for Israel, speaking out on this. I'm not quite sure I can put this into words, but if there were a time to stand for Israel, and I think there always is, this is probably the most significant time, most important time to take that stand, is it not?
I'm a Jewish believer in Yeshua. I have 2 Jewish parents. I have 4 Jewish grandparents. My grandmother is a Holocaust survivor. She was in 2 concentration camps. Right now, the historicity of this moment for the church to rise up in support of Israel, to pray for Israel, to love Jewish people in wherever at work or at school, right now, you have an opportunity to show the Jewish people the radical love of Yeshua. Who is Jewish, by the way? I get that all the time in Israel. People say, well, you're not Jewish, you're a convert. And I say, well, I'm a Cohen on one side and I'm a Levi on the other. That doesn't get more Jewish than me. And by the way, I believe that Yeshua, Jesus, is who he said he is, and he's Jewish. And they go, oh yeah. So I believe that this Jewish person is the Jewish Messiah. I'm Jewish. There's no conflict for me, but it kind of blows people's minds because it's so obvious.
This is a moment of opportunity to witness love.
Exactly. And just, I say to love, it doesn't mean you have to say, well, Matthew says this. Just to love people, just to love the Jewish people, and just provoke them to just know, like, why is this person loving me so? What do they do?
All right, Daniel Cohen, we're out of time.
God bless you.
Good to see you. Thanks for
Always
being here.
good to be